The large computer screen lit up Dr. Sunmi Park's face as she stared at the data before her. It was 3 a.m. at the Seoul Institute of Planetary Research, and she was the only one still working. The cleaning staff had left hours ago, leaving behind the smell of lemon-scented floor cleaner. Sunmi took another sip of her cold coffee and adjusted her glasses. Something was different about these readings. She had been studying the data from planet KP-186F for 6 months now, but tonight's results were unlike anything she had seen before. This can't be right, she said to herself, running the numbers again. The spectral analysis showed strange patterns in the planet's atmosphere. These patterns suggested the presence of complex organic compounds, the building blocks of life. Sunmi had developed a new way to study faraway planets. She combined quantum spectroscopy with artificial intelligence to look at the light coming from these distant worlds. Her method could detect things that other scientists often missed. The office was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the clicking of her keyboard. Outside her window, the lights of Seoul sparkled in the dark, but Sunmi's attention was focused on another light source, one that was trillions of miles away. She picked up her phone and looked at the time. It was too late to call anyone, but she couldn't wait until morning. Her hands shook slightly as she dialed the number of her mentor, Professor Yang. "Professor, I'm sorry to wake you," she said when he answered, "but I found something you need to see." "Sunmi." It's the middle of the night. Professor Yang's voice was groggy. "What's so important?" "I think I found signs of life on KP-186. There was a long pause on the other end. "I'll be there in 30 minutes. While waiting for Professor Yang, Sunmi double and triple-checked her work. She had spent years developing this detection method. Many of her colleagues had doubted it would work. Some had even laughed at her ideas. But now, the evidence was right in front of her. The planet she was studying was special. It was about the same size as Earth, and orbited its star at the right distance for liquid water to exist on its surface. Scientists called this the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right for life as we know it. Professor Yang arrived wearing a wrinkled coat over his pajamas. His gray hair was messy, but his eyes were alert as he looked at Sunmi's data. "Show me everything," he said, pulling up a chair. Sunmi explained her findings, pointing out the unusual patterns in the atmospheric readings. She showed him how her AI program had detected complex organic molecules that shouldn't be there naturally. "Look at this pattern," she said, highlighting a section of the data. "These compounds are similar to the ones produced by living things on Earth, but they're different enough to suggest they come from life forms we've never seen before." Professor Yang studied the screen in silence. After what felt like hours, he turned to Sunmi with a serious expression. "Dr. Park," he said formally, "I believe you've just made one of the most important discoveries in human history." Sunmi felt her heart beat faster. She had hoped she was right, but hearing Professor Yang confirm it made it real. "What do we do next?" she asked. "First, we need to verify these findings," he replied, already making notes on his tablet. "Then we need to put together a team, the best minds we can find." He paused and looked at her with a slight smile. "And you, Dr. Park, will lead this project." As the sun began to rise over Seoul, Sunmi looked out her window at the brightening sky. Somewhere out there, trillions of miles away, something was alive on another world, and she was the first person to know about it. This was just the beginning. Her discovery would change everything we thought we knew about life in the universe. But at that moment, watching the sunrise, Sunmi had no idea just how much change was coming. 1 week after her discovery, Sunmi sat in a large meeting room at the Seoul Institute. Professor Yang had helped her set up interviews to build her research team. She needed the best scientists in Korea to help study the possible alien life forms. The first person to walk in was Do-hyun Lee. He was tall and wore thick glasses that he kept pushing up his nose. Do-hyun was famous for his work with quantum computers. He had helped build the fastest quantum computer in Asia. "Dr. Park," he said, sitting down across from her. I canceled 3 meetings to be here. Professor Yang said you found something important. Sun Mi showed him the data from planet KP-186F. Du Hyun's eyes grew wide as he looked at the readings. He pushed his glasses up again and leaned closer to the screen. These patterns, he said slowly, they're not random. There's something intelligent about them. That's why I need you. Sun Mi replied. Your quantum computing skills could help us understand these patterns better. Do Hyun nodded. When can I start? The next interview was with Jae-ah Kim. She was shorter than Sun Mi and wore her lab coat even though she didn't need to. Jae-ah was the best atmospheric chemist in the country. She had spent years studying the atmospheres of different planets. When Sun Mi showed her the data, Jae-ah stood up and walked to the screen. She traced the pattern with her finger, mumbling to herself. These compounds, she said finally, they're like nothing we have on Earth, but they work together in a way that suggests life. She turned to Sun Mi with excitement in her eyes. I want to help you study this. The last person they needed was someone with experience running space missions. Tai-Wan Cho had worked at the space agency for 20 years. He had gray hair at his temples and smile lines around his eyes. But he also had the most experience with complex space projects. Dr. Park, he said warmly, I've heard a lot about your work. But why do you need someone like me? Sun Mi explained her plan. She wanted to create a new project called IRIS, the Interstellar Research Initiative for Sentience. They would need someone who knew how to manage big scientific projects and deal with space agencies around the world. Tai-Wan listened carefully. When she finished, he smiled. This could be the most important project in human history. Count me in. Later that day, Sun Mi looked at her new team sitting around the conference table. Do Hyun was already typing on his laptop, probably working on new quantum algorithms. Jae-ah was drawing chemical structures on a notepad. Tai-Wan was making phone calls to his contacts at other space agencies. Professor Yang walked in and looked around the room with approval. Now this is a team that could change the world, he said. Sun Mi felt proud, but she also felt nervous. They had so much work ahead of them. They needed to prove that the signs of life were real. They had to figure out what kind of life it might be. And they had to do it all before anyone else made the same discovery. Let's get started, she said to her team. We have a lot of work to do. As they began their first meeting, none of them knew that on the other side of Seoul, another scientist named Han-Gil Kang was looking at similar data. He had his own plans, and they would soon cause problems for Sun Mi and her team. But for now, they were focused on their work. They were about to begin the greatest scientific adventure in human history. They just didn't know how great or how dangerous it would become. 3 months had passed since the team came together. The lab at the Seoul Institute had become their second home. Empty coffee cups and takeout containers showed how hard they had been working. Do Hyun sat at his quantum computer station, watching streams of data flow across his screens. He hadn't moved from his chair for hours. Suddenly, he sat up straight and adjusted his glasses. Dr. Park, he called out. Come look at this. Sun Mi hurried over to his station. The others followed quickly. On the screen, strange patterns of light pulsed in a regular rhythm. What are we looking at? Sun Mi asked, leaning closer to the screen. The quantum sensors picked up these signals coming from KP-186F. Do Hyun explained. They're not random. Look at how they repeat. Jae-ah pointed to a particular pattern. These pulses look like they carry information, like a code. The team watched as more patterns appeared. The lights changed colors, from blue to green to purple, in specific sequences. Each sequence lasted exactly 10 seconds before repeating. Could this be their language? Tai-Wan asked quietly. The question made everyone pause. Sun Mi felt her heart beating faster. Do Hyun, can you create a program to analyze these patterns? Do Hyun was already typing. I'm using quantum algorithms to look for mathematical relationships in the signals. It might help us understand what they mean. For the next week, the team barely left the lab. They took turns sleeping on the old couch in the corner. Do-hyun worked on his translation program, while Jaya studied the chemical makeup of the signals. They learned that the alien life forms were very different from anything on Earth. Instead of being made of carbon like Earth life, they were made of silicon. Their bodies were like living crystals that could produce and control light. They're using bioluminescence to communicate, Jaya explained to the team. But they're also sending electromagnetic pulses. It's like they're speaking two languages at once. Do-hyun's quantum computer program started to make sense of the patterns. Look at this, he said one morning. When we send certain signals back, they change their pattern. They're responding to us. Sun Mei immediately called Professor Yang. He arrived just as Do-hyun was preparing to send another signal. We're going to send a simple mathematical sequence, Do-hyun explained. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. If they're intelligent, they might recognize it as prime numbers. They sent the signal. For 10 long minutes, nothing happened. The room was completely silent except for the humming of computers. Then new patterns appeared on the screen. The aliens had sent back the next 5 prime numbers, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23. They understood. Sun Mai whispered, "This is first contact." Professor Yang put his hand on Sun Mai's shoulder. "You've just opened the door to the greatest conversation in human history." But their excitement was interrupted by an urgent message from Taiwan. "We have a problem," he said, looking at his phone. Han Gil Kang's team just announced they've detected signals from KP-186F. They're planning to publish their findings tomorrow. Sun Mei looked at the beautiful patterns still flowing across the screen. They had to move carefully now. One wrong move could ruin humanity's first chance to talk with alien life. "We need to work faster," she said to her team. "But we also need to do this right. The whole future of human-alien contact depends on what we do next." As if in response, the patterns on the screen changed again. The aliens were sending something new. Something that would change everything they thought they knew about life in the universe. The next morning, Sun Mei's team gathered for an emergency meeting. Han Gil Kang had already shared some of his findings with the media. News websites were full of stories about possible alien signals. "This is bad," Taiwan said, showing them the news on his tablet. "Kang's team doesn't understand the full picture. They might scare the aliens away with wrong signals." Jaya nodded in agreement. "Their chemical analysis is incomplete. They don't even know about the silicon-based life forms yet." Sun Mei looked at her tired team. They had worked so hard to make careful first contact. Now everything could fall apart because of rushed announcements. "We need to talk to Kang," she decided. "Maybe we can work together instead of competing." Do-hyun looked up from his computer screen with worry. "Dr. Park, something strange is happening. The quantum signals are changing." Everyone moved to his station. The usual patterns from the aliens had become irregular. New signals appeared that they had never seen before. "What's going on?" Professor Yang asked. He had just arrived after seeing the news. Before anyone could answer, the lights in the lab began to flicker. Computer screens showed static. Even their phones stopped working. "The electromagnetic interference is spreading," Do-hyun said, typing quickly. "It's affecting all our equipment." Taiwan got an emergency call from the space agency. "It's not just us," he reported. "Communication systems are having problems all over Asia. Satellites are picking up strange signals." Sun Mei remembered something from the alien patterns they had studied. "The aliens communicate through light and electromagnetic waves," she said. "What if they're trying to talk to us in a bigger way?" "But why now?" Jaya asked. Because of the news, Sun Mei realized. "They must have detected all the signals from our media coverage. They know we're talking about them." Just then, Han Gil Kang burst into their lab. He looked worried. His usually neat appearance was messy. like he had rushed there. "Dr. Park," he said, "we need your help. Our lab's equipment is going crazy. Nothing works right anymore." Sunma looked at her team, then back at Kang. "We'll help you," she said, "but you need to stop making announcements. These aliens are more advanced than we thought. We need to be careful." Kang nodded quickly. "Agreed. My team, we got excited and moved too fast. We didn't think about the consequences." As they talked, the interference grew stronger. Lights flickered all across Seoul. TV stations reported signal problems worldwide. "Do-hyun," Sunbai called, "can you use the quantum computer to analyze these new patterns? There must be a message in all this interference." Do-hyun started working, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "The patterns are different, but they follow similar rules. Give me time." Sunma looked out the window at the city. In buildings everywhere, lights blinked on and off. It looked like the whole city was sending signals to space. "We need to solve this fast," she told her team and Kang. "The whole world is watching now, and so are they." The aliens were trying to tell them something important. Sunma could feel it. But would they figure out the message before the growing panic on Earth made things worse? Jia sat in her lab, surrounded by complex diagrams and chemical formulas. She had been studying the alien signals for days without rest. The worldwide communication problems had gotten worse, but she felt close to a breakthrough. "Come look at this," she called to Sun Mei and the others. "I think I understand what these beings really are." The team gathered around her workstation. Even Han Gil Kang, who now worked with them, came to look. On Jaya's screen was a detailed model of what appeared to be a crystal structure. "They're not just silicon-based," Jaya explained. "Their entire bodies are like living crystals. They process information through light, just like our computers use electricity." Do-hyun leaned forward, pushing his glasses up. "That explains the patterns in their signals. They're not trying to interfere with our communications. This is just how they think and talk." Sunna looked at the crystal model with amazement. "So when our news broadcasts reached their planet, they responded in their natural way," Jaya finished. "By sending light and electromagnetic signals. They probably didn't know it would affect our technology." Taiwan had been quiet, but now he spoke up. "We need to show them we understand. Maybe then they'll adjust their signals." Professor Yang nodded in agreement. "But how do we communicate with beings made of living crystal?" Jaya pulled up another diagram. "Their crystal structure lets them store and process information using light waves. It's like their whole body is both a brain and a communication device." "That's incredible," Han Gil said. "All our ideas about what life could be were too limited. We never imagined something like this." As they talked, the interference patterns on their screens changed again. But this time, Do-hyun noticed something different. "Look at these new signals," he said excitedly. "They're weaker, more focused. I think they're learning. They're trying not to disturb our systems as much." Sun Mi felt hope rising. They're intelligent and capable of adapting. They must have realized their signals were causing problems. Jaya worked quickly at her computer, creating a 3D model of how the alien crystals might look. The image showed beautiful geometric shapes that seemed to glow from within. "Each face of their crystal structure can receive and send different types of information," she explained. "They'd probably see the world in ways we can't even imagine." The team spent the next few hours designing a new way to communicate with the crystal beings. They needed to show that they understood what the aliens were and how they functioned. "If we can match our signals to their crystal structure," Do-hyun suggested, "maybe we can talk to them more clearly." As they worked, the worldwide interference began to decrease. News channels reported that communication systems were returning to normal. The aliens had understood their impact on Earth's technology and adjusted their approach. "This is why careful scientific study is so important," Sunbai told her team. "We needed to understand them before we could truly communicate with them." Professor Yang looked proudly at the group. You've done more than just discover alien life. You've shown us that life can exist in forms we never dreamed possible. The crystal beings had changed everything humans thought they knew about life. But this was just the beginning. Now that they understood each other better, real communication could start. And the next message from the crystal beings would bring an opportunity no one expected. Taiwan stood before the team in their main conference room, pointing to a complex diagram on the screen. After weeks of studying the crystal beings' communication methods, he had developed a bold plan. "We've been thinking about distance all wrong," he explained to the quiet room. "These beings use quantum properties to process information. What if we could use quantum entanglement to talk to them?" Do Hyun's eyes widened. "Quantum entanglement? You mean using connected quantum particles to send messages instantly across space?" "Exactly," Taiwan said. "No matter how far apart the particles are, they stay connected. If we can create enough entangled particles, we might build a direct communication bridge." Sun Me looked at Professor Yang. "Is this possible with our current technology?" "It's never been done at this scale," Professor Yang admitted. "But our quantum computers are the most advanced in Asia. If anyone can do it, this team can." The next few weeks were filled with intense work. Do Hyun modified his quantum computers, while Jaya helped design special crystals that could hold the entangled particles. Han Gil used his connections to bring in more resources and equipment. They built a device that looked like a small pyramid made of clear crystal. Inside, quantum particles floated in a special magnetic field. The team called it the Quantum Bridge. The crystal shape matches the natural form of the alien beings, Jaya explained to visitors from the space agency. "We hope this will make it easier for them to connect with our device." On the day of the first test, everyone gathered in the lab. The crystal pyramid sat on a special table, glowing softly with a blue light. Do Hyun sat at his computer, monitoring the quantum states. "All systems are ready," he reported. "The entangled particles are stable." Sun Mi took a deep breath. "Send the signal." The crystal pyramid pulsed with light. On their screens, they could see new patterns forming in the quantum field. They waited in tense silence. Suddenly, the pyramid lit up with brilliant colors. Patterns of light danced across its surface, forming complex geometric shapes. "We're receiving a response," Do Hyun shouted. "The quantum link is working." The first message they received was simple but clear. The crystal beings sent mathematical equations that described their own world. Then came something more surprising. They sent images. Through the quantum bridge, the team saw the alien world for the first time. It was beautiful and strange, covered in crystal forests that sparkled under their star's light. The crystal beings moved through these forests like living rainbows. "They're showing us their home," Sun Mi whispered. Everyone watched in amazement. Then came the most surprising message. The crystal beings revealed they had been studying Earth for hundreds of years. They had waited until humans developed enough technology to truly understand them. "They wanted us to learn and grow on our own," Professor Yang said. "They waited until we were ready." Through the quantum bridge, the crystal beings began sharing knowledge about their technology and culture. It was more advanced than anything humans had dreamed possible. "This changes everything," Han Gil said, watching the data flow across their screens. "Their technology, their understanding of the universe, it's all so far beyond us." Sun Mi looked at the glowing pyramid, their bridge to another world. "The real question is, what do we do with this knowledge?" The answer would come soon, and it would present humanity with its greatest choice yet. 1 month after establishing the quantum bridge, Sun Mi and her team faced their greatest challenge yet. The crystal beings had made them an extraordinary offer, one that would change human civilization forever. Through the quantum bridge, the aliens had shared small pieces of their knowledge. They showed how to make cleaner energy and how to remove pollution from the air. But now they offered to share everything they knew. "They want to give us all their scientific knowledge," Sun Mi explained to a room full of world leaders who had gathered at the Seoul Institute. technology that could solve climate change, cure diseases, and help us explore space. Professor Yang stood beside her. But this knowledge comes with great responsibility. The crystal beings want us to prove we can use it wisely. The world leaders looked at each other with concern. Some seemed excited by the possibility of advanced technology. Others looked worried about the risks. "What exactly are they offering?" asked one leader. Do-hyun stepped forward to answer. "Their civilization is thousands of years ahead of ours. They can build ships that travel between stars. They understand how to control gravity. They can even change planets to make them suitable for life." "And what do they want in return?" another leader asked. "They want us to join what they call the Galactic Exchange," Ta-one explained. "A network of intelligent civilizations that share knowledge and help each other grow." Jaya added, "But they're concerned about giving too much power to a young civilization like ours. They want us to show we can handle it responsibly." The room filled with heated discussion. Some argued that humanity needed this knowledge to survive its current problems. Others worried that such advanced technology might be dangerous in the wrong hands. Han-gil, who had become a trusted member of the team, spoke up. "We've already seen how their simple communication attempts affected our technology. Imagine what their more advanced knowledge could do if we're not careful." Sun Mai watched the debate with growing concern. The crystal beings had given them 1 Earth month to decide. If they accepted the offer, humanity would gain incredible power. If they refused, they would have to advance on their own, which could take hundreds of years. Late that night, after the world leaders had left, the team gathered in their lab. The quantum bridge glowed softly in the corner, waiting for their answer. "What do you think we should do?" Sunma asked her team. "We need this knowledge," Jaya said. "Earth's problems are getting worse. This could save millions of lives. But we need to be careful how we use it," Ta-one added. "We can't rush into this." Do-hyun looked up from his computer. "Maybe there's a middle way. What if we ask them to share their knowledge gradually? Let us learn and adjust at a safer pace." Sunma smiled. She had been thinking the same thing. "We could propose a step-by-step plan. Show them we understand the importance of responsible progress." The team worked through the night, developing their proposal. They would suggest a careful approach that would let humanity advance while learning to use each new piece of knowledge wisely. As morning approached, Sunbae looked at her tired but determined team. Tomorrow, they would present their plan to the world leaders. The future of humanity would depend on their decision. The morning sun shone through the windows of the Seoul Institute as Sunmei and her team presented their proposal to the world leaders. They had worked hard to create a plan that would let humanity advance safely with the crystal being's knowledge. "We suggest a gradual approach," Sunmai explained, standing before the gathered officials. "The crystal beings will share their knowledge in stages. After each stage, we must show we can use the technology responsibly before moving to the next level." Professor Yang supported her presentation with clear examples. "First, we learn to clean our environment and produce clean energy. Then we learn about advanced medicine. Finally, we learn about space travel and other advanced technologies." The world leaders listened carefully. This time, there was less argument and more thoughtful discussion. They could see the wisdom in taking things slowly. "The crystal beings have agreed to this plan," Ta-one added. "They say it shows wisdom to recognize our own limitations." After hours of discussion, the leaders made their decision. They would accept the crystal beings' offer, but follow the careful plan that Sunmi's team had developed. The next few months brought amazing changes. Through the quantum bridge, the crystal beings taught humans how to build better solar panels that could power entire cities. They showed how to remove plastic from the oceans and turn it into useful materials. "Look at these results," Jaya said one day, showing the team data from their first projects. "The air quality in major cities has improved by 40% in just 2 months." Do-hyun worked with scientists around the world to improve the quantum bridge technology. Now they could talk to the crystal beings more easily than ever. "We're learning so much about quantum physics," he said. Things we thought were impossible are becoming possible. Hangil helped create a new program that would let young scientists from every country learn from the crystal beings. This knowledge should benefit everyone, he explained, not just a few countries or companies. 6 months after they started the knowledge exchange, something unexpected happened. Other alien civilizations contacted them through the quantum bridge. The crystal beings had told them about Earth. We're not alone in learning and growing, Sun Mai told her team as they watched messages arrive from different alien worlds. We're part of something bigger now. 1 year after Sun Mai first discovered the strange signals from KP-186F, she stood in the new Interstellar Cultural Center in Seoul. The building was designed to look like a crystal, with special rooms where people could talk to alien civilizations through quantum bridges. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? Professor Yang asked her as they watched a group of students talk with beings from another world. Sun Mi smiled and shook her head. I was just trying to understand what life might look like on other planets. Instead, we found a whole community of civilizations ready to welcome us. The crystal beings had been right to wait until humans were ready. By choosing to advance slowly and carefully, humanity had shown it could be trusted with great knowledge. As the sun set over Seoul, its light reflected off the crystal-shaped building in rainbow colors. Inside, humans learned from alien teachers, sharing ideas and dreams across the vastness of space. The universe had become a much smaller place, but humanity's future had become much bigger. Sun Mi looked up at the evening star where she knew the crystal beings lived. Thanks to their wisdom and humanity's careful choices, the future was brighter than anyone had imagined possible.